guys, welcome back to their vlog. Appreciate it as always. Ryan Wilson here from Predator Inc. I'm at our San Diego shop. Apologize for last week. We were just absolutely slammed with stuff going on. Plus Jason had a tummy ache and apparently couldn't make it into work. So I blame everything completely on him.
Tummy ache?
Got some Midol for him and he's back at it this week, better than ever.
Wait,
so
I didn't
welcome
have a tummy
back,
ache.
Jason.
I didn't have a tummy ache.
Midol is your sponsor for today.
Oh my God.
So, got a cool build that we wrapped up here. We're actually wrapping up quite a few big trucks recently, last week as well as this week. This one's pretty cool because it's a 2006 H1 Alpha, last model year that they came out with the H1 Hummer for civilian purposes, and it was equipped with the LOY Duramax engine. So you may ask yourself, well, 2006 doesn't correlate with an LOY. And the reason for that was it was originally set up or built in 2005 with the 2005 LOY engine. Problem was they went through some EPA testing and it really drug out the process of getting it released to the market. So they skipped model year 2005 and released it as a 2006. So most of the Alphas were built in 2005 and released in 2006 as a 2006 model year. That's why it comes with the LOY engine. It also comes with the 5-speed transmission stock. But the catch to it is they have these things so detuned. There's something called torque management that's inside the tune that really it removes a lot of performance on the tail end of the RPM range. So as the RPM range is up, it'll actually start to pull a lot of power, a lot of torque, and that's to safeguard the transmission. That's in every Duramax truck out there. But the Alpha Hummer has even that much more to it. It has like a really kind of gutless feel, even when you compare it to an LOY truck. So there is a lot to be desired out of the LOY. Runs great, but you know, you put it side by side with the 6.5 turbo diesel, and it is definitely better. Don't get me wrong there, but it's only marginally better. It's not like, you know, out of this world better as you would expect from that Duramax engine. So you can do some tuning stuff to make it kind of run a little bit better. That makes a big difference, but you're also fighting a 5-speed transmission. So the Allison transmission is absolutely, hands down, the best tranny out there in my opinion, especially for these heavy duty trucks. So the 5-speed transmission is a great, reliable transmission, but the 6-speed transmission came out the following year in 2006 for the Chevy trucks. But unfortunately, because the truck was built and the LOYs were allocated in 2005 for this platform, they didn't get the 6-speed tranny, and that's huge. So it makes a big difference. It really drops down that 6th gear. A lot of times what they do is they'll split the gears up a little bit, where you have your first gear and your last gear about the same as a transmission that's a little bit, it has a few less gears, and they kind of split up the shift points in between. Actually, a good example of that is a 6-speed transmission up against the Allison 10-speed transmission that's out on brand new Allison transmissions in the Duramax truck. That platform has a very similar first gear and 10th gear as the Allison 1000 with the 6-speed transmission. First gear and the 6th gear are about the same, and in fact the 6th gear in the Allison 6-speed transmission is actually a little bit lower than the 10-speed. So you could argue it's going to get a little bit better fuel economy, drop the RPM range a little bit. Not a whole lot, but there is a little bit of benefit to it. So interesting that the 10-speed is out and it just added a lot more gears in between. And the idea behind that is it keeps you in that power band. So if you look at a torque curve, horsepower curve, and really the one you want to look at is a torque curve on the Duramax diesel engine, as well as any diesel engine, what happens is it typically goes like straight up to about 1,000 RPM, and then it just tapers off and flatlines. Where a gasser, it's really just getting started at 1,000 RPM up to 6,000. So the more RPM you get out of it, the more power you get. But in the Duramax setup, that's not the case. So having it a little bit closer power band has some arguments that it is going to run a little bit better, give you a little bit more seat of your pants feel out of it. So interesting backstory, customer took it to a local shop and commissioned them to build up the engine, put in just a massive power plant in there, rebuild the LOY engine, build up the transmission, and it went on and on and on to the point where the shop literally just shut down on them and stopped working on it. Problem was they just got in over their heads. They were trying to put an application that they've done in the Chevy truck into the H1 Hummer, and it just doesn't fit. They had a dual turbo system in there, and the turbo was sitting down like in the fender well, in a location where the tire would hit with any type of articulation. There's just no way it would work. Big problem was they ran the fuel line, it was up to the dual CP3 pump, which supplies the fuel pressure to the injectors. And what that really does is it maintains about 30,000 PSI. The truck already comes with the CP3 pump, but the dual CP3 pump, what that does is it ensures that you're right at that 28,500 to 30,000 range or so, more or less, no matter what type of throttle input you're putting in. So you can be at 100% throttle and it's still going to be putting in 30,000 PSI, where a non-dual CP3 pump truck is going to start to taper off and you're going to lose some pressure there when you're full wide open throttle. The dual turbo design was just way over the top. There's no way it would possibly function. Getting back to the fuel line, they took some fuel line, stainless steel fuel line, and welded it up. Problem with that is running that stuff at 30,000 PSI is potentially deadly. So we went through the whole truck, got to the point where we're like, you know what, we don't know what's in this engine. We don't know if everything has been torqued down correctly, as well as the transmission. So we went through everything on the engine and transmission, and fortunately all the right parts were in there, but they just weren't torqued down properly. So we got everything dialed on it, put back in there, ditched the dual turbo system, went to a single turbo, and then went with a fleece design turbo with bearings on it, which is pretty rad because you run the truck, you turn it off, and you can still hear it kind of spool down. It just keeps on spinning. So tremendous amount of power out of this truck, a lot of fun to build up and to get it back on the road. Let's take a look at it. We'll do a quick walk around and then we'll get inside the truck. Got the D-ring brush guard. We've got the air intake up here, as well as Rigid Industries lights all the way around. We did our LED light package all the way around the truck. Light bar up here. We have the side air intake over here as well. Kind of gives you like a really boxy look. I think it matches the Hummer a little bit better than the factory one. It has like a little flat piece of metal bent around here. It has a radius look. Everything on this truck is pretty much square, so that looks really good with this design. And then I can't open the door because it's locked, but I'll show you on the other side. Right here we have an additional fuel port. This is actually for the water meth system that this truck has. So water methanol, it's a combination, gets injected into the engine, really drops down EGTs. It also compresses the air because it goes in, cools down the air after the turbo, and then results in more power. So it does two things for you. It gives you a lot more power. Also, because it makes the air a little bit more dense, but it also drops EGTs. So it really helps keep the EGTs down when you're pulling like a heavy long run with this truck. So this engine was actually sourced as a long block engine, fully built up, all kinds of internal stuff. And then it was shipped out to the customer shop out in on the East Coast. And this shop that was doing the work was swapping all the components over. They used a lot of RTV silicone in areas that they should not have. So that really kind of threw into question the whole build. So he had us rip it apart completely, get down to the block. We found that the block was built up properly, the long block portion, and everything on it was just over the top. The whole block was fully studded. Everything on it was studded, including the injectors, which is kind of overkill, but it was just put together incorrectly. They also had a big turbo sitting over here that was hitting the tire. If the tire had any articulation, which it will have once it starts to articulate up into the fender well here, it would have taken out that turbo. So there was no way that dual turbo system would have worked in such a tight area. So we pulled that out. We went with the 63 millimeter fleece turbo. It's a bearing design turbo. The thing's awesome. Variable vane turbo, just a great turbo. Dual CP3 pump. Redid all the gaskets on the engine, went through everything, made sure it was 100% dialed, and also made sure all the parts that were there that he purchased were in it, and they were. Transmission was a full stage 5 tranny that was built by another shop, not the shop that was putting the engine in here, trying to fit it in place. So it was a quality transmission. Virtually everything on here was fully built up, including alternate firing camshaft, which is a great way to go. If you're going over 600 horsepower, you really need to consider doing alternate firing cam. What that does is it changes the firing order on the engine. So what happens is one of the weak links on the Duramax is when you get it up over 600 horsepower, you can potentially snap a crank on there. What happens is the engine fires in such a manner that it loads and detonates. I think it's a 3-1-2 piston, and it's just so much in that one area on the front side of that crank, it'll actually snap the crank. So that alleviates that. It changes the firing order so it's very even, so it distributes the load across the entire crank. So it's dialed now and running amazing. And then coming to the back, we've got the search and rescue rear bumper with the tire carrier on the back. And
stop moving away from the truck.
I'm going over here, bro.
But you're getting out of frame.
Okay.
You don't need to be 20 feet away from the truck.
All right, come on. Come on. So coming around the side of the truck, we've got a blacked out exhaust system, our remote reservoir shock system. That really makes a big difference. We do have a new suspension system coming out here shortly. All new springs, all new remote reservoir shocks. It is really cool. We're doing some testing on it right now and just tweaking a couple little final things before it gets released here in the next couple months, hopefully. Spending a lot of time testing it, just making it perfect. We also have different spring rates. So depending on the truck, if you're running a wagon with a roof rack or maybe like a soft top or just a 4-door hardtop, you want to go with the softer spring setting. We're going to have those combinations for you too, so that's coming out here shortly. And then okay, so here's the drop down running boards. Drops down and out, which really helps out getting inside the truck. Inside the truck came to us with most of the interior work already done. We didn't do 90% of the interior work on it. It came in this way with black leather here, the gray suede headliner, but it turned out really, really good. And this is what, you know, a nice clean transformation for an Alpha Hummer to updated materials looks like. It just looks really, really clean. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and kind of gives you an updated, more updated feel. We did add the snow performance kit right here. So this controls how much water meth is being injected into the engine. Up here, this is pretty cool. You drop the sun visor down and you've got a switch bank. So we manufacture this switch bank right here. Very clean design. You do lose a little bit of space. If you can see over here, I don't know if you can see this, Jason. You've got this little tiny weird cubby hole thing up here. You lose the weird tiny cubby hole, which doesn't really do anything for you anyways. And you get it replaced with a nice bank of switches here, which it gives you a great way to add the light switches for the truck without having like a bunch of holes added to the dash down here or weird funky aftermarket stuff. It looks very clean and factory, and then you don't even see it up there. One thing we did add are some gauges. We did boost, trans temp, and then a pyro gauge down here. Something else we're coming out with, and we reached out to the customer to see if he wants these, but we have built aluminum handles. We've got the factory handles coming out. Actually, they're done now. They're leather wrapped. They go up here, and then also on the A-pillar. And that's also we're gonna offer another kit that you can add to your non-Alpha Hummer and add the pillar handles onto your truck too. So that's pretty cool. That'll be out here. Actually, when will it be out, Jason? You're working on that today.
Oh, gotta
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I had to unmute myself.
Oh, you muted
so you
yourself.
don't hear me breathing
Dude,
when I'm filming.
I need to mute you. Somehow I need to figure out how to mute you.
I got a little button right
here. Let me have
here.
the mute button.
See, I got the little button right here. No, you can't have it. It's my button.
Here's the mute button. Let's mute Jason.
No, you can't mute me. But it'll be done. They'll be up this week.
This week, you promise?
I promise.
You promised last week.
It depends if you don't give me any more work. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I want more work.
There's work added every week.
Yeah, I know.
If you don't get it done, it stays there for next week. And you got to get more done. So stop with your freaking tummy aches and get to work, okay, bro?
Oh my God. It wasn't a tummy ache. I like broke my back.
Whatever it was, dude, the Midol fixed it. So if you're back at work.
It was Advil or Aleve. I don't know. Whatever Sanderson gave me.
It wasn't.
Maybe it was Midol.
No, ask him. So that wraps up the 2006 Alpha Hummer. Super clean truck. We got a ton of stuff going on, a ton of new products, suspension kit, a lot of billet aluminum items coming out, and a couple really cool vlogs coming up next week. We also have, a couple of big trucks, so hopefully we'll be 100% this week, and then we'll be able to do a quick film on those and get those updated this week as well. So thanks for watching as always, and make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and we'll see you guys soon.